Welcome to another awesome Ultimate Bow class. This is going to be a real special class. So we're going to be taking a look at thrust versus pokes. Pokes are techniques that are a little bit more marginalized in the Ultimate Bow curriculum. We don't look at them as often, but in many styles of staff throughout the world, such as in Chinese staff styles, pokes are actually really often used, and I think one reason that they might use it more is Chinese staffs tend to be even longer. They can be 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet even sometimes, and they need a little bit more stability whenever they're doing outward thrusting type motions. But in general, in my own training, I've been finding that my accuracy is a little bit higher usually whenever I do a poke. I'm more likely to hit the target like the face or the nose if I'm focused on. I do a lot of training on the realistic body opponent bag. But what I want to do in this class is we're going to train the thrust and then the equivalent poke of that thrust so that we can really get some practice in anyway and dig a little bit deeper into how they work. And really I want you to ask yourself at the end of the class, which do you prefer? Like, which is better? Of course, one could be better for one situation, one could be better for another. But go ahead and leave a comment on this class and let me know, let everyone else know. I really like to find out what you think about it. So let's go ahead and get warmed up. In this warm-up, we're doing some traditional technique floor drills. So we're going to be doing a floor drill, which just means going from one side of the room to the other, as big of a room as you have. It's going to wake up your legs a little bit more in your stances more than just moving our arms, okay? First one's overhead front strike. We're going to go down and back 2 times. And just go as long as you just continue to go until I finish if you have a smaller space though. Okay, begin. I'm just doing overhead front strike. I switch, overhead front strike. I'm landing into our front stance. Now I'm going back the other way. This isn't full power yet, right? We're just warming up. Nice range of motion. I like to warm up at like a 50% technique, landed in a stance because it kind of stretches out those legs and gets you into a proper stance rather than just standing with your legs locked. Okay, same thing, but we're going to uppercut now. So uppercut and we'll land in a back stance. Okay, now we're going to do sweep, uppercut. Open up the hip, nice and wide. Come back into your back stance. So we're going to go into an overhand grip, and we're going to do a combat strike. So it's actually going to be a round kick. We're going to do a round kick, and then a horizontal strike, like in angle 3, for example. And then round kick on the other side, horizontal strike. And it'll be done in a floor drill. going to stay in our overhand grip. We're going to do a front thrusting kick and do a descending strike. Okay, such as like an angle 1, but in our overhand grip. And then, of course, it'll be angle 2 after the next kick. And time. All right, let's do some torso twists. Really feels good. Kind of open up your lower back. That was a pretty good little warm-up, and we got some practice in our techniques. The way I do these technique warm-ups, like I said, start at like half energy, half speed, build it up a little bit more at 3/4. Towards the end, you should be getting pretty close to your full energy, full effort, essentially. Okay, and time. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the traditional part of our class today, which means we're going to practice the thrusts and the pokes in traditional formats and stances before we go into doing them in more of a free-flowing combat format later. So first we'll look at the front thrust. By this point in time, you should know the front thrust quite well. Now the front thrust, our traditional technique, of course, it differs from the combat technique is we do have the preparation. So preparation, just like before you do a down block or anything else in traditional techniques, it sets up really nice alignment and it's going to give you a better follow through. And we do land in a long front stance, so it's a little bit deeper than I would most likely land in a fight. So that is going to be the traditional demonstration of our front thrust. So we know that. In a moment, we're going to be doing our front poke, okay? But we're going to first do our front thrust 10 times on each side, get some repetitions, get a feel for it, and I really want you to target. I'm going to be targeting the solar plexus, the mid-torso of the body on my front thrust here, okay? So I'm going to go to right dominant, and I'm going to do mine 10 times, so follow along with me. Give me some good repetitions today. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really good rotation and turnover. Leaning in, but keeping our back quite straight, right? We don't get that bending of our back at the end. 6, 7. Might even hear a nice snap on your gi if you have a heavy enough gi. 8. 9, 10, which I kind of like that when you hear that snap on some techniques. And that's a benefit of having a slightly heavier gi because it gives you an audio feedback, I guess, or auditory feedback to how you're doing a technique. So we'll go left dominant. 1, 2, 3, 4. Guys, be careful not to like push down. Like that's a speed strike. That's a combat technique. Speed strike is going down, pouncing down like a snake, coming back. A front thrust literally goes straight out. Now we might start higher, so we might go our plane of attack a little bit lower, but it's very straight, the line itself. So it doesn't dip down. It actually goes very straight. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so when it comes to a front poke, now we have a technique, right? It's called an advancing poke. The advancing poke is a traditional technique we learn and we do in Bokata 5. And it's just essentially a front poke. So front poke is something you see quite common in the Okinawan Bojutsu curriculum. If you go to Okinawa and it's just a pure Bojutsu curriculum, they tend to use pokes, I would say, even more than we do in Ultimate Bow. Now, a front poke, it's really just being set up to do a front thrust, a two-handed thrust really. Okay, but you glide the staff through in between the thumb and the index finger. Okay, so you're not exactly playing pool, right? That would be the your hand being flipped upward. You essentially could do a poke like that, but it would require a different transition of your hand, which I don't think is efficient. But you're here, and it's not directly through here always, like that. You can even have it glide some through just the middle of your palm, and that gives you a little bit more stability, a little bit more of a runway to take off is the way I think of it, like a plane taking off to land to its final destination. So what's nice about pokes is this stability, of course, allows you to stay on track to hitting your target. So just naturally, the staff is going to stay within that small like cylinder, that angle or that line right there, as if it's going through a tunnel. So it's going through a tunnel, it hits the target, it comes back. Whereas if I do it just two hands, or even less stable, of course, is the one-handed poke, you have a lot more muscle movement and control and margin for error. So on a front poke, that's really what you're doing. We don't twist our whole body as much like this as we do on a one-handed thrust. The reason why we do that on one-handed thrust is now that we don't have to keep that hand out there, we have the ability to really twist and push that back hip forward, which was going to give us more power and more intensity on the strike. Again, it might reduce the accuracy a little bit though. Okay, so we actually keep our body pretty much straight like this, and the power comes from pushing the hip forward and the back arm. And we also like to do it advancing if we can. Now, if someone's coming here, we're blocking. Yeah, you absolutely do it as a defensive poke as well. And that can really be an unexpected shot. You're blocking, someone's moving in, and you just poke straight to the throat. Very damaging and a good defensive maneuver, essentially. So we're going to practice the front poke. This time we're not going to advance. We're just going to literally practice. I want you to basically practice hitting the face or the head level. I like to go to the head level or the throat level on these pokes. Of course, they can definitely be done to the torso too, though, and we also do them there. So we're going to go right dominant, meaning that right hand's on the front and then left hand's behind on this one. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, yeah, so I'm moving, but I'm not going way into it because then I lose my guiding hand. We'll switch sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we'll switch again. Now we're going to practice that front poke as an advancing poke. And that just means we're literally doing it as we're stepping forward. So what I want you to do is to step forward and poke. It's just a step and slide. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, switch sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so when you'll see this sometimes in Bojutsu katas from Okinawa, and they'll do their advancing poke. So rather than just bringing your feet together, or like our advancing poke technique, which is the traditional technique, is 1, 2, 3, and it's really done from a long hold position. What you'll see sometimes is stepping forward over the leg and then thrusting forward with your footwork. So here, so rather than kind of shuffling, it's a cross step. So you can play around with that, see how that feels. And we'll be doing that some with some of our more advanced Tokunan Bojutsu katas anyway. So we're going to move on to the reverse thrust, which we all know and love, our traditional technique. Traditional technique, reverse thrust. Of course, looking over, totally transitioning the lower body weight, and then getting the thrust very linear and across. Okay, and twisting the hands as well. So let's get our 10 repetitions in on each side. Right hand dominant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, switch. Left dominant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now we're going to look at the reverse poke, okay? Now, our reverse poke is done in Bokata 4, and we do it for a half a second, then we skip, and we just move on, right? And what we do in that kata is, so our left leg's in front, and then it's looking over your shoulder. So you actually place it on your shoulder, and use your shoulder and your hand to guide. And we basically just push back a little bit. To make your reverse poke more viable as a very fast strike, there are 2 ways to do it. One is here, actually going down the staff some and doing more like a long hold reverse poke. Because if I stay in my position where my hands would be here in like a normal combat hold, I have like a couple of inches of play. It's just not going to do much, most likely, right? So here, and what you're doing here is if I'm sparring, I'm hitting, there's someone over here, I quickly transition and push back. And ideally, if I can get a catch to the face or the throat, even, I don't know how many pounds of pressure that is, but I don't know, 80 pounds of pressure, or as much as we're getting out to the face or the throat. It's not a huge amount of force. It could definitely stop that person or give you some time, though. Getting caught in the face or the throat with a staff like this would be very painful, even if it's slow. Here, so attempting to go down, and just like that. So we're going to practice this one first. We're going to do it 6 times on each side. Then I'm going to show you another variation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Switch sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we're going to look at another option, which is going to be like a torso level reverse thrust, and it looks like this here. It's pretty much just, I'm like in a normal combat hold. It's the complete opposite of a two-handed thrust. I'm just going straight back. So rather than having to position it or hoping that I landed it to where it would make sense to do this, and then, oh, that's not going to work, I'm going to have to switch hands, this is a little faster to get to. I'm still playing around with it because this isn't a technique that we've really worked on much. It's not in our curriculum in Akata anywhere or anything like that. But the idea is that you're pushing forward and you're going to hit yourself essentially on the lower abdomen. So you want to try to miss that a little bit, but you push the staff towards you until you meet your other hand. And that gives you a couple of feet of poking power behind you essentially, right? So here, and to make it even better, you could go forward or backward. Of course, backward would give you more power in that direction. Okay, so we're going to practice here, push out, and back. So instead of just here, which could also be a reverse thrust of sorts, we're just going to go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It allows you to just glance over your shoulder, go for the poke, rather than having to totally engage and change our body position, which, again, like I said, this might be more relevant for multiple attacker situation. 6. Switch hands. 1, 2. Okay, and I'm just guiding it through. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we're going to move on to a couple more. We have our down thrust, then our down poke. You definitely see both of these in, again, traditional bujutsu as well. And we see them in our katas. On our down thrust, the idea here is we're thrusting downward to the leg, or even potentially to an opponent who's already on the ground. In that case, the down thrust would really have to go a little bit lower, though, or a poke would work well. But to do the down thrust, as we know, we're actually going in the opposite direction of our thrust. We push, we twist, we get our lower body column twisted one direction as we thrust downward. Okay, so again, it's here. And there's a little bit of showmanship, a little aesthetic element here. We are going straight up, diagonal, straight down. Make it look very clean for kata purposes. Let's do it 10 times. 1, 2. Give me some energy, guys. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, switch sides. Up, twist, down thrust. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now we're going to go to our down poke. So a down poke you even see in our second black chevron kata Sakugawa no kon. Okay, we do a technique here. We do a low-level knee strike or block. And then down poke. It's a small advancing down poke here. Okay, so the thought here is you're either striking down to the leg, or again, the bunkai could be an opponent's already on the ground. And then you're going a little bit lower even to the face or the body or wherever they're at on the ground. And if it was a bladed weapon, basically a finishing shot there. So same idea here. We're guiding. But in this case, our hand is almost making like a C. And we just guide the staff through and back. And it's in a descending diagonal angle. Okay, to do this one though, we don't twist our body and then do a down poke. So again, this is due to the fact that we need our guiding hand to be present and available in the right position. It's kind of like why we can't twist our whole body into a front poke, excuse me. Okay, so we actually go forward and kind of descend into this down poke. So we're going to practice that. I'm going to go same position I'm in right now, which we'll call this left dominant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This other hand is pretty much just holding it as if my fist is raised. Gives me nice, like a downward hammer fist motion. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch. Lots of things could happen from here. I could do other blocks, could do other downward attacks, or could do downward pokes. 1. That was a danger there. We've got to keep that contact. You want to keep contact with your guiding hand for your poke to work properly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there it was. Hope you guys enjoyed looking at the traditional side of things. That down poke especially is possibly brand new for a lot of you, and just getting the understanding of a thrust versus a poke. What are the advantages, what are the disadvantages? So now we're going to jump into combat bow. And really what we're doing today is just getting a wide range, free-flowing practice. If you have a training bag of any sort, a combat bow like a padded bow or whatever you need, go ahead and use those. If not, you can do all this in the air, shadow work, just giving a ton of intensity and really visualizing that opponent, visualizing your targets. That's the advantage of having some targets to hit, right? I don't actually have to just mentally visualize, and I get some like visceral feedback. I know what it feels like when I do a poke versus a thrust. You feel the difference in your wrists. You feel the difference in your forearms. You feel the reverberation and advantages and disadvantages, right? So first we're going to do normal combat hold. So we're doing a 2-minute round. It's literally anything you want to do, but I want you to add in more pokes and thrusts than normal. I mean, probably especially pokes, because we don't do those very often. So, I mean, you could be going 1, and then a front poke, 2, and then this is one that we didn't really look at yet, but it's actually doing a reverse poke, but with your hand facing down. And that's one that you can do also from a reverse hold. Okay, so instead of doing this, our heel thrust from a reverse hold, you can actually poke through. So yeah, let's really focus mainly on pokes and other strikes. If you want to throw a thrust in there as well, sometimes that's fine. But it's a 2-minute round, normal combat hold, switching sides, anything you want all the way through. Let's get it done. So, a lot of energy, guys. Begin. So you might have not had a killer workout yet. Let's get it in now. Oh, wow. Yeah, I've got to keep my column straight in order to get a very accurate poke. Ah, yes. Normal combat hold. If you want to switch to overhand grip sometimes, then this one, that's okay. It's hard for me not to go from normal to overhand grip sometimes. Time. Okay, we're gonna do push-ups. And let's do 15. Yeah, so just really quick on that one, on your overhand, overhands are not the most effective way to do pokes, except if you're on the side of your body, you can do this overhand hold, and it can be an unexpected poke, or of course that could have been a thrust, but it's very fast. Continue on with the follow-up attack. So that's what I want you doing. I want you playing around, figuring these things out, and getting some reps in. So we're going to go into long hold for 2 minutes, specifically focusing on long hold and working different pokes along with your other attacks. Ready? Begin. Get some back strikes in. Speed strikes. That's not good. Okay, let's do 15 push-ups. Okay, so one more round. It's going to be 2 minutes. Reverse hold. Get creative with it. Work on pokes. Like I said, you can do the heel thrust poke primarily on this one, and anything else that you can follow in with your reverse thrust. So last round. Let's go. Keep it going, guys. Let's go. Sorry if my breathing is annoying. Just drown it out with your own breathing, so you won't even hear it. Okay, let's do 15 push-ups. Okay, so if you're complaining about the workout so far in the class, hopefully that got you going. Let's do a cool down. One arm out. Let's walk away from it, chest stretch. Other direction. Both hands on top of your staff and walk back. Take a deep breath in as you bring your staff over your head. And out. Go down. Spread your legs out a little bit wider. Same thing, really lean back over your head this time. Lean into your left leg. Lean into your right leg. All right, hope you guys really like this class. It was a lot of fun for me to do with you. And like I said, work on it some more, or just even after this first class, go ahead and leave a comment. I'd really like to know which do you prefer, or do you think there's one situation where a thrust is better than a poke, or vice versa? And maybe this is just thrust versus pokes class 1. We might have a class 2 where we actually get to test it out and sparring, or some sort of person-on-person practice, or multiple opponent practice. Because again, that's really the way you would find out. But even in your own filling and practice, especially if you have some sort of feedback, you're hitting something, you already get a feel for a few things. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next class.